Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
In environment. Let us our gratitude today to learn, collaborate, to extend my sincere appreciation to our international guest lecturer, Mr. Lucas Weinberg, for joining us and for the willingness to share valuable knowledge and expertise. We hope that today session will inspire our educator, researcher, and students to explore new possibilities in design VR-based learning environment and to consider how technological innovation and contribute to a more sustainable and inclusive future. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I declare the International Guest Lecture officially open. I wish all of us insightful and inspiring session. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for the insightful and encouraging remarks. Implementation session, and we kindly request all participants to remain this moment. So, would you please everyone to turn on your camera and give your best smile as the committee will take a snap for each slide. So, Agung, are you ready? So let's give a smile for the first slide. Okay, continue to the second slide. Okay, the third slide. Next, fourth slide. Right. Okay, and the last one. Well, thank you very much for the operator. And next one, we will move on to the introduction of our guest lecturer. And for this segment, I would like to invite our moderator, Ibu Ismi Rahmawati MPD, to lead the main session. To Ibu Ismi, the time is yours.
Thank you, Budian.
Anytime.
Good afternoon, good morning.
Ya, Bu Ismi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, please make sure your microphone is mute. And next, allow me to introduce our guest lecturer. Today, we are pleased to welcome Lucas Weinberg from University of Innsbruck, Austria, in Europe, not in Australia. So there's no kangaroo here, yeah? Lucas is a talented young researcher in sustainability. He published many articles, journal, index in Scopus, also had a great experience in projects such as MOS, LOES, Freeze for Future, Teach for Reach, and others. Without any further delay, let us welcome our guest lecturer, Lucas Weinberg. And the screen is yours.
So thank you. First of all, thank you very much for the introduction and your words and for having me today. So as I start, you may for sure see that there are no kangaroos in Austria because we have a lot of mountains. Can you already see the screen?
Yes.
So, perfect. So thank you again. I want to introduce myself shortly. So my name is Lukas Weinberg and I'm working at the University of Innsbruck since 5.5 years now. And I'm working as PhD candidate, and as Ismi already mentioned, I'm working in diverse projects, which are focusing on open schooling approaches, which are focusing on participative approaches. And last but not least, I'm working currently on a project which is focusing on virtual reality and how to integrate education for sustainable development into virtual environments. So for this lecture today, I prepared a short overview so that you know what comes up to you in the next 60 minutes. So we will start with a short introduction on education for sustainable development, theoretical input, so that we are all on the same page and have the same understanding, or you understand what I think of the SDGs and the education for sustainable development. I want to give you insights in current research before I present to you our current case study of the project Freeze for Future, where we were aiming at designing a VR experience, which is for sure student-centered and follows the core idea to simulate a field trip within a VR for climate change education to a glacier site that you already could have seen on the first slide. So let me begin. Education for sustainable development. As we probably all know, the SDGs and also the Agenda 2030 was proposed by the United Nations already in 2015. And we do have those 17 goals to reach. And the special thing about the SDGs is that they are covering all aspects of our lives. So they are covering ecological aspects, economic aspects, and also social aspects. And what is interesting and what is a challenge for us as educators is probably to see the relationship between each of the SDGs and also design learning opportunities for our students and also maybe for future teachers who are enabled to bring on those SDGs in their classrooms to design transformative learning opportunities. So if we take a closer look for us as teacher educators, SDG 4 key role. And within SDG 4, I also see the challenge to integrate also the other SDGs into my teaching or into the teaching of all of us to enable students of transformative thinking and learning. The synergies between some of the SDGs lie on hand. So if we take a closer look, for example, just on SDG 13, climate action, I think there are some of the other goals which are closely connected, like SDG 14 or 15. Both are very close connected to climate action. And also the social aspects are connected to each other. So if we take a closer look to SDG 5, gender equality, I think gender equality goes along with SDG 1, 2, 3, and even 16. So we see that those SDGs are closely connected to each other, and reaching them is a challenge for us. And we can make use of our position in working at the university or becoming teachers to be like a multiplicator for the students or the next generations that are coming. So the challenge is to empower learner to make informed decisions and take responsible action for a good life afterwards. So the goal is to encourage changes in knowledge, skills, and values. This is the question, or this is the aspect which is asked for our teaching. We want to enable the students to take decisions or make decisions for more sustainable and justice future for all of us. We have 3 key principles which are closely connected. So what does that mean to us? Learner-centered, action-oriented, or facilitate transformative learning processes. What does that mean for all of us? Maybe we all have different ideas on that. But if you take a closer look maybe to the action-oriented aspect, this principle emphasizes doing and not just knowing. So learners gain knowledge by engaging in meaningful actions, for example, in investigating real-world problems, conducting experiments in different subjects, taking part in decision-making. So give them a voice to speak out, implementing projects or solutions, and very important for myself, collaboration with others. So integrate maybe stakeholders from your local community to your research aspects and combine them with your students so that they get a real life problem and can work together on a solution. The core idea should be learning becomes powerful when learners act in real or realistic situations instead of just receiving information. And the more challenging task probably could be to facilitate and design transformative learning processes. Transformative learning goes beyond knowledge again. It aims to shift perspectives and help learners critically reflect on their assumptions. So if we're in a classroom, then we should give students the opportunity to critically reflect their assumptions and their concepts they have to facilitate and again. So we're looking forward to dialogue and discussion in classrooms, and we want to aspect again. So those key pedagogical principles should build skills for critical thinking, for collaboration again, and also we want to have future generations or a next generation that is able to take and decide for responsible decisions. But these questions, I was thinking of how can we integrate learner-centered, action-oriented learning process into VR environments. So this is one challenge we may address also later in this talk. So as I said, teaching design should be action-oriented and focus on the possibility of education to change also personal actions. That goes all to a transformative learning, which comprises deep, personal, and meaningful changes that are not coming just from the classroom. We need to have a design that initiates disruptive experiences for those students. So we also conduct, for example, workshops in nature to make students aware on climate changes and what does that mean for our ecosystems, for ecosystem services. What is if one of the services like goes down? So the definition of transformative learning is a deep learning process in which individuals critically examine their existing beliefs, assumptions, and values, and then reshape them to form new and more inclusive perspectives. It goes beyond gaining new information, and it changes how a person understands themselves and their worlds. And we also have some key features within transformative learning again. And it all goes back again to like the key principles, which is on critical reflection, dialogue with each other, and then trigger emotional changes. So bring up some experiences that the students can join to address their emotions and their prior experiences so that they came up with new ways of thinking and acting. The learners should adopt more open, reflective, and responsible behaviors. Trips and excursions to places like the forest can support education for sustainable development. The question is, how can they support problem solving, and how can they support gaining imminent skills which are relevant in education for sustainable development? Because we can't go like undersea, we can't visit easily glaciers or Antarctica or something. It is not easy for us to travel to any country with rainforests. It is not possible for students to go close to any volcanoes or something. And at least it's not possible for us to, for example, go up to Mount Everest and check out on climate change there and the ecosystem services like those mountains provide for their lower valleys as well, like providing water and also raw materials and so on. So the question is how to access those areas, those ecosystems, to have a field trip there and bring students the experience they need to change their minds or to think of how to improve. So this is where we thought that VR can close the gap. As in many cases, the learning environments are not reachable by learners due to unforeseen risks or like individual limitations, or also high costs, or just when those ecosystems are on the other end of the world for us. So talking about virtual, what is virtual reality and what are we talking about right now? So virtual reality is not a new thing. It came up already in the 1980s and was discussed to be a big change for educational aspects. It then came up with new and less expensive techniques like the Google Cardboard that you can see in the first picture. And so the discussion on how to integrate it into learning becomes more and more apparent. Virtual reality is a technology that creates a simulated environment that can be similar to or completely different from the real world. So we don't need to have like those 360 degrees videos where we like see the real world. It can also be programmed. It can simulate very different things, which we can see in the next slide again. And the most important thing is that it creates the feeling of being inside another world through visual, audio, and interactive elements. So to reach higher immersion, we have to concentrate on the virtual world and try to switch off the real world somehow for just a moment of time. VR can help students to understand complex concepts and gain also hands-on experience, which are not possible. For example, VR was also or is in use for medical aspects and also for engineering aspects. And this is also then interesting for educational aspects. So immersive and engaging nature of VR makes it an ideal tool for creating interactive learning experiences. But how can we combine virtual reality and all those technical aspects with education for sustainable development? So we have there are some selected studies that show that immersive VR can provide unique learning experiences that are otherwise impossible. You can see some pictures here. The first picture is one that enables students to embody animals, or in this case, to embody corals, which are deep in the sea. It also enables students to explore dynamic processes through realistic simulations or observe environmental change using, for example, time-lapse visualizations. Those time-lapse visualizations could also be interesting for historical education and any other cases. In the picture below, you can see that VR can shrink students in size to have them as small as insects which are living on our ground, on our soils, to discover the biodiversity of soil and to see how soil animals react and act. So we can shrink them to a microscope scale. But to have that successful, or to be successful in this, VR must be integrated thoughtfully into classroom. So not every VR experience is very fruitful for students. It's not just give them a VR environment and they will learn, send them to the Mount Everest and they will learn about the Mount Everest and mountains, for example, or give them an environment to learn about biodiversity. No, it's very important to integrate those experiences thoughtfully into the classroom. That also speaks of thinking of where are my students coming from, what is their experiences right now, what are like their conceptions. And the challenge is on the design and on the pedagogical foundation. So often those VR environments are designed by VR developers and not by pedagogical experts. And this is why we also can find negative outcomes in the literature. So negative outcomes for cognitive learning, for example. So if like there happens too much in this VR environment, like you have too much action in there, it can affect the cognitive load. So, and the cognitive load then hinders students to learn deeply. And the technology can also have further negative aspects. So as we are always talking about, or at least in Europe, it's the case that we're talking about to have more green time. So bring the students outside before over screen time. So this is one reason. And the other aspect is that students can have like a psychological distance to sustainability. So they can see sustainability issues like far away from their self, and they are more into like gaming through these VR worlds. And also it can be the other way around. So having a feeling of dystopia. So everything, like nothing, we need more hope. And there are no good news. We can't only show like bad news and how rainforests or glaciers are destroyed. So VR can complete substitute for real experiences. That is something we need to be aware of. And this is also, or this opens up also the research gap and the need for further research on the integration of VR environments there. And we do have two very important aspects that lie on the quality of virtual environments. So we have presence and we have also immersion. And immersion I already talked about shortly. As immersion refers to the technical and sensory qualities of a virtual reality system that make use of feel surrounded by a computer-generated environment. So you have the feeling to be inside this computer-generated environment. High-quality visuals, sound, and their interaction, like I already said, create a sense of being inside a different world. It is about what the technology provides. So wide visual fields, responsive controllers, realistic environments, and also rich sensory input. So as more realistic the computer-generated VR environment is, that the higher the immersion or emotional feeling will be. Presence is another aspect, which is more a psychological experience of being there. So you can feel like you're really, really being inside there, or you feel like being inside the rainforest or any other ecosystem. So presence is a psychological feeling of truly being in the virtual environment. It is the mental state in which a user accepts the virtual world as real enough to influence their thoughts, emotions, and behavior. So presence depends not only on the quality of the technology, but also on attention, emotional engagement, and how meaningful the scene is to the user. So we have to create also meaningful aspects. That is one of the key aspects I talked about before. So we have to bring in student-centered aspects. And to learn about which virtual environments are already out there and which approaches are used years, colleagues and we did a scoping review on VR in education for sustainable development to see the scope of and the coverage of a body of literature, and also to see which research gaps are there and how we can address them. Therefore, we posed 3 different research questions to the body of literature. The first is on the pedagogical approaches. The second is on theories and methods. And the third one is on the outcomes measured in existing studies. We make use of two different search strings, so we adapted them a bit on the Scopus data set. And we were looking for virtual reality and also for sustainability in education. And the results show a variety of virtual environments. So you can see, for example, something I already showed. So you can embody animals, for example. You can embody animals and be a frog and find out about the habitat of a frog. You can also see being in a bathroom, and which is like totally computer generated as well, or have a field trip to Antarctica, or which is more going to asking for more action, is to build up a photovoltaic power plant. So we found several different studies and different ways on how to implement VR. Most often, this included the usage of programmed environments, as you can see in the pictures. These environments are there in the pictures. And another option was to include 360-degree videos of new stories from, example, Greenland, or on the biodiversity of wolf habitats. And now coming to the research question. So what variables were measured? On the affective side, we measured only positive aspects. So the feeling of being present is very high. So the effects of the VR is we have a higher presence there. And we have more positive attitudes, for example, to the environment, and which comes up also with the emotions and with the science-related aspect. So there's a closer connection to scientific jobs or to science in general. So we have positive affective results there. And also on the behavioral aspect, we have some data collected. But as you can see in the first row, some VR environments don't bring clear effects. But different literature shows that there's only less time for tasks, higher flow, and more environmental behavior as well. And if we take a closer look on the cognitive aspects, we can see increased knowledge. For example, for the photovoltaic aspect, where the students were asked to be like very active. Ocean acidification, where it's about like the deep sea, and also the frog habitat brought an increase of knowledge. What about theories and concepts? As we were talking about the presence aspect, the presence aspect shows that higher presence is in strong connection with a lot of other concepts. So as this figure shows, most studies have investigated the relationship between VR treatment and presence. 5 studies, as you can see there, 5 studies showed that application of VR in education for sustainable development significantly and robustly increased its presence. Concerning learning consequences, presence significantly increased state interest, as you can see like in the corner on the right, decreased water consumption and intention to do so, and fosters recall and cognitive elaboration as well. And other research showed that the role of identification with science and its indirect effects on interest in pursuing a STEM career, that was like an Arctic experience, for example. So we have learned that nearly every study shows an effect, a positive effect from IVR on presence. And we also have close correlations with nature connectedness. So having this treatment of virtual reality leads to a higher connectedness to nature and also to a new ecological paradigm. And also the presence predictor can be seen as a predictor of various dependent variables. To summarize the scoping review results, we mainly found specifically programmed environments, and the use of the hardware was mainly Oculus or HTC. We recognized that the integration of 360-degree videos trigger a greater sense of presence, which enhances learners' engagement and emotional responses. While studies show high variability in theoretical frameworks, references to transformative learning theories are largely absent. So this is something we discussed we talked about at the very beginning, the transformative learning theory and its importance for education for sustainable development. Research tends to focus on attitudes and emotions, generally reporting predominantly positive outcomes. A higher sense of presence in immersive VR may not only support emotional learning, but can also contribute to improved cognitive understanding and behavioral outcomes. After that, we wanted to find out more about how VR is used in biology-specific designed environments. Together with my colleague, and she was like authoring this study, we did a systematic review on network visualization of virtual reality in biology education, because we wanted to learn about what topics are covered and also where. So we found a gap in systematic review and network visualization, so that we used the time period from 2014 to 23 and found 83 articles and analyzed 38 in detail. And we found that most of the biology topics covered are intercellular and also molecular or human body aspects. If you see biodiversity, evolution, or other aspects which are maybe more closely connected to climate change and climate change education are only like in small numbers there. Why are we conducting those interviews? We wanted to get insights into the state of the art. We wanted to learn about applied methods, see what learning outcomes are there, and which topics are covered, to learn how we can make use of them and how a VR design environment should be designed to foster learning. And now I'm coming to the presentation of our case study. So you can see the QR code where you can find the whole article there, where you can also find more of those visualizations. So now to our case study. The case study's topic is Freeze for Future. It was conducted, or it is right now conducted, at the University of Innsbruck, and it was a project running from November 2022 to now. So we are coming closely to an end right now, and we are cooperating, or we have a close cooperation with 4 different schools from Austria and also from Germany. And we also have a technical partner who's in charge for making our ideas visible somehow. And the project design is the following. So it builds up on a long-term climate change education initiative from the University of Innsbruck, and we make use of a citizen science approach. And the 4 participating schools, they were working over the past 3 years in sequences to have an iterative process. So the first school had ideas, and the second school built up on these ideas, and so we created a environment, and VR environment, which is mainly student-centered, and which makes the ideas of students also visible. So why we choose the citizen science approach? It's very easy, because we wanted to have a collaborative research on equal footing, and we wanted to learn about students' ideas. To give you an insight where we are right now, we do have the Europe map here, and you can see Austria, Germany, France, and we are right here. And to give you even a bit more feeling of how it is on a glacier, I provided a video. I'm not sure if it's running. So this is a drone flight over the glacier where we are together with students. I just want to give you a short insight on where we are right now and where we are together with students and what is it all about. So those glaciers, they are melting, and the glaciers, they are very important for our ecosystems in Austria, because they provide us with water, and the high mountain environments are like dependent on their water and also minerals from the stones and so on, to have those high biodiversity, which is usually there in high mountain environments. And this is all ice, what you can see. And we took those drone flight within September 2022. And since then, we lost another 90 meters of glacial length. And that is why we are going there with students, is the reason that students can witness change there quite easily, because they see the water running down the glacier, and they also can see like the melting of the glacier there. So we decided to have to carry out or to design a research area or a VR environment of this area. So, but why glacier in climate change education? Because of the melting of the glacier and also the melting of the ice and the warming temperatures, natural hazards are getting more and more. So we have landslides, we have rock falls, and so on. And the glaciers play a crucial role for sustainable life in the Alps, as they are providing water, as I already said, they are providing different other ecosystem services, which humankind, which are important for humankind, especially for the valleys, and also for the whole of Austria. And research also shows that having field trips in those environments can support and address the environmental identity of the students. And to teach about glaciers and climate change, it is important to first of all see what existing student conceptions are there. And there are some studies from 1982 where students thought of a glacier being just an ice street or comes from a volcano. There are also difficulties in differentiating between mountain, glacier, and ice. And also we found out, or like the colleagues from Germany found out, that there are different concepts regarding the movement and the impact on the land, because this is also something which plays a major role to understand why the valleys are set up like they are right now, because you have to understand how the glaciers move and the dynamics of the glacier to understand about geomorphological aspects. But those this research on student conceptions reveals a lack of systemic understanding on process. As I already presented, we have claims that the glaciers are changing, and this is a reason why we address them in our research. So we thought of designing a virtual reality based on a theoretical framework of the educational reconstruction. So we wanted to provide content, and we also wanted to integrate the student conceptions and to address them, to provide the possibility for conceptual change for the students, to change their existing ideas on those environments. So we started with a theoretical background, and we started to introduce concepts that were like in 500 existent 400 and 500 years ago. And already in the late 79, people already knew about the reason why the glacier is moving, which is due to its weight. Beside this one, we also integrated the development of glacier ice. So it is about the decomposition of induced snow and like the processes of melting and freezing again. And we tried to integrate all those aspects into the VR environment. As I already mentioned before, there is some research on student conceptions, and the students expressed everyday theories like the ones which are already exposed by people who lived 300 years ago. And it seems that they don't have any understanding of the erosive, which brings stones, which brings materials and minerals down to the valley as well. And already also the difficulty in differentiating between mountain and glacier. They thought that like glaciers were like moving on water. There's any kind of lake or river they're lying on. And the connection between glaciers and the climate was already also unclear for the students. So a short summary. field trips support climate change. Knowledge and experience on glaciers can promote awareness of nature, and it enables climate change education at glaciers. And it is like a lot of other ecosystems, the access is not possible for everyone because it's also up in the high mountains and it's far away for a lot of students, and it's also dangerous to go there. So the challenge for us is to identify the role and the possibilities of VR to make the effects of climate change visible and to strengthen the motivation for climate positive action. And as we are aiming for a holistic understanding, we integrated the framework of ecosystem services and education on glaciers. And the ecosystem service framework, which was introduced by the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment already in 2005, is originally divided into 4 main categories. So as you can see in this figure, we have provisioning services, we have also regulation services like climate regulation, water flow regulation, and we also have cultural services, which are, especially for the Alps, of a high importance, as we are in need for like tourism, and we also make use of our Alps for aesthetics and also for education. And the idea is to connect subject-specific knowledge from different disciplines and to understand the interdependencies and interaction between ecosystems. So similar to the SDGs in general. So what we did is we identified several services which are of relevance for the area we are going to with students, and we looked up for literature describing it. So we found about cultural services, regulating services, and provisioning services, and we thought of being very general, so we can always go more into detail, but for our case, we've been like on the higher level on this. And we designed our research in the following way, asking ourselves, VR environment be designed to support learning about glaciers and climate change in high mountain regions. We approached a citizen science project, which is called the Freeze for Future project, to recognize the students' perspective. And with that, we designed a research concept where we explored young people's perceptions to understand their prior knowledge and to address it, to enable them for conceptual change as well. And also young people's perception of authenticity, because we wanted to have the possibility of having a authentic VR environment, so that the students, we integrated elements, what students perceived as being part of an authentic glacier hike. To give you a short overview on what we did, as we made use of a variety of data collection methods, we always had a spring kickoff at the schools itself, and there we tried to find out about their conceptions. And then in summer, we had Alpine research weeks in the mountains, and we had semi-structured interviews, field trips, photo documentations, and also group discussions to learn about students' ideas. And with those ideas, we always came back and we brought them to our technical partner, which was Laser Data GmbH, and asked the students to write a script and also think about how to integrate different stations. And the Alpine Research Week itself, it was always designed in a way that the students were 4 to 5 days with us together on the glacier side, and they took part in an interview study. We carried out the glacier hike together, and also did the intervention with always a prototype of the glacier hike. So we always had a prototype, and the students had the possibility to take a closer look on what is good and what is not working, what are their ideas, and then we get back to the technical partner to integrate the new design ideas. We also had focus group discussions, and following the students' interest, we also had photo story hikes as well. So to learn about the students' conceptions, they had a task to draw a glacier, which was an individual work. And the results you can see in the 4 pictures on the left. We categorized 4 different aspects. So first of all is the tongue, which is wide in accumulation area and narrows towards the end. We have like the peaks, which are more like a coat on all the mountains, and the peak of mountain with the glacier covering the entire summit. And then the patches you can see on the picture C, and the valley formation and the glacier flow, which is like a typical school book depiction of glacier flow and valley formation in this case. As you can maybe see, maybe it's not, maybe it's too small, but we also recognize that some students see different things in the mountains. So if you take a closer look at picture B, you can see 2 climbers going up the mountain. And this was interesting for us because for us, glacier and high mountains is more like an ecosystem which is very sensitive. And for others, it's like a playground. So we also have pictures with trains going up the mountain and with cable cars going up the mountain and having a lot of people there. But this is something different, and this is also something we try to address in the final VR environment there. Then the interviews, we had 16 different interviews where we learned about students' ideas as well. And we also asked them in a task on the ecosystems they see. And they named, like, for the regulation services, especially the natural hazard regulation, water flow regulation, and the importance of glacier as habitat for animals, and also for being important for the biodiversity. For sure, the cultural aspect, like the tourism, was very important of them, as you can see here. And in relation, they only named the provision services, which are very important in a scientific way, only a few times. You can also see this in this graph. And the idea is our goal was to design the VR, or like to integrate aspects into virtual reality that addresses especially those aspects to have a more balanced outcome of these aspects after VR treatment. So the interviews show that there are clear differences in understanding how glaciers are formed. For example, they do have a specific understanding of, like, there needs to be snow and there needs to be cold, but they lack of the understanding of the systematic development of ice, for example, and also the movement itself. So, which was very interesting for us were the results discussions, and the focus group discussions showed that students don't want to have a VR environment where they can like an open world where they can walk from the valley to the glacier. Also, that would take some time. So they thought of having a step-by-step guide through the valley, starting at the bottom, going up to special geomorphological aspects like the moraines, where you can see where the glacier was 150 years ago, so in 8050 or something. And they thought of the topics that can be addressed there. So in the second stage, it's all about climate change. On the third, it's about biodiversity. Then they are like close to the glacier where you can see the melting water and all the water coming down from the glacier. And they have the fifth station where they wanted to speak about danger and the results of melting glaciers for high mountain areas and the people living up there. So some statements from the students were, for example, to see the glacier as a whole and comparing it as it was 100 years ago would be interesting. Then the students wanted to see the creatures, like the animals living up there, and also the shape of the glacier and the massive amount of water per second should be visible. So those statements were answered from the students in glacier hike in the real world, for example. So we thought of designing a virtual reality glacier experience through a citizen science approach, as I already said, to address all of those topics. And we wanted to, or the research aim itself was to explore students' conceptions of an authentic glacier hike and to identify elements and features of interest for this age group. So this is the location, you can see it again there, and also the card or the map of Austria here. And we asked them on how to develop or how to design the gaming aspect and the content of the VR environment. And they answered, or like in interviews, they answered about game mode and gamification aspects. They also gave us answers on design elements and also on the feelings and attributes they describe. And you can see a short overview here, which was very interesting for us in designing the VR environment. So they somehow have the wish to have like a zooming function, so make use of binoculars or like this drone flight I showed you before. And they also are looking for social interaction. So they want to be together with friends, which is interesting for also social learning and for the participative aspect of education for sustainable development. And it is important for them, like the geomorphological aspects, to seeing the tongue, the glacier stream, the crevasse, and the valley itself, and also the aspect of danger in high mountain areas, because there were also students who are a bit, who describe the feeling of joy, but also the feeling of danger, and that was the difficulty to address both. So we had different stations. I want to provide some pictures from those glacier hike. Yeah, there you can see like the mouth of the glacier, which is like the very end. You can see the drops there. This is also interesting for the students, as you can like see the glacier melting in seconds. This is already on the glacier where you can see all the stones coming down from the mountains, so you can feel can see the danger as well. And this is in the very forefield where you can see which power and which force a glacier has, as you can see like those very big rocks in the riverbed, which were like brought there by the power of the glacier itself. But for the final design, we for sure have a few limitations. So first of all, we have like different school classes, which leads to a very, very varied range of prior knowledge about glaciers. It would be interesting to integrate more student ideas there. And we also had variation in prior knowledge of high mountain ecosystems and also on the morphology. As well as we recognized different understandings of the framework of ecosystem services that affected students' ability and to fully engage with the framework. And the sample also had urban schools in it, which limits the generalizability of our results. And as it is only for a glacier site, our results can't be used for or are limited to use for any other design projects. And as the project itself light on the citizen science approach, we have mainly qualitative data collection methods that provided very rich insights and very rich ideas of the students, but it limited the potential to gather quantitative data as well. And this is also the biggest limitation, that we didn't evaluate the final version yet because it is like in the process, and it is like the next step we can do now. So it's all about the design process. And for these discussions, there are some points I spoke about like earlier. Students tend to rely on, or students often rely on everyday experiences when interpreting complex environmental phenomena, which can lead to misconceptions or overall simplified explanations. And many also experience psychological distance when trying to relate local glacier changes to broad climatic systems. And to support learning, instructional design should reduce cognitive load by minimizing unnecessary distractions. So this is like a small path. If you you want to integrate some aspects, but you shouldn't integrate too much. So it's a very individual learning event in there. What is quite positive is that I can pose different questions which are answered by the students very individually, focusing on their abilities in the on the whole aspects. So our implications for making use of VR in education for sustainable development is that teaching should start at the scratch by introducing the development of glaciers and the interaction between accumulation and ablation area, for example. So it should address for sure student conceptions so that we can enable them for conceptual change and don't go far and far into wrong directions. And students also tend to rely on everyday experiences, such like things they see. And they also a big gap in the understanding of local changes and the global water cycle or global climate change issues. So we made the experience that there is a psychological distance on climate change, so that climate change don't happen in front of the students themselves. Even if they see the glacier melting, but they see that there are floods going to be anywhere else if the glacier is melting. And which something that should always be cleared is to make sure the understanding and interconnectedness of human and natural systems should be a key competence for sustainable education. So, and for closing the talk, I want to present some insights from, or some design elements of the VR environment. So we integrated minerals for movement to associate the local geology in this picture. We are directly on the glacier, and it is an older version of the glacier of the VR environment itself. So the programmed mountains are now sharpened and can be seen, you can see the stones way better now. And we also integrated, for example, some estimation, some mathematical issues where the students can estimate the glacier retreat from 1815 to 2022, which is also made visible with those numbers. And as they also wished, we integrated an animation where they can see like the glacier in 2022 versus 1953. And because we found a picture from there, we couldn't like program it ourselves. We found a picture, and you can see that there's a lot more ice than it was before. And also they could guess like the the loss of ice between 1953 and 2022, which is like about 80 meters on this side. They also can see the glacier mouth in here and the instability of like those worlds. The end of my presentation, and I'm very thankful for having given the possibility to speak to you, and I'm looking forward to some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Lucas. It was very interesting and gave us many insights about VR and also the new information about glacier from your research. Now we will continue with the Q&A session. If you have any questions, please open your mic or click raise hand, or you can write on the chat box your question. Yeah, for all participants, you can ask question. You can ask question in English or in Indonesia. I can translate it for you. There's one, Echa Putri. Okay, Echa Putri, you can ask question. Open your mic.
Okay. I'm so sorry. This is my name Yazid because I can use my device. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the opportunity, moderator. I'm so sorry. I can start video. I'm so sorry for that. Okay. My name is Yazid Muhammad Rizky Nur Halim, a biology education student at Unila class of 2022. For Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
I would like to thank you for your excellent presentation. Okay. From your presentation, I see that VR-based ESD learning is applied to biology topics at the macro level, such as ecosystems and biodiversity. However, how about applying VR to biology topics at the micro level, such as cells and others? Is it possible to apply it, and how will it be implemented? But before that, can microbiology topics like cells be integrated into ESD? Education sustainable development.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. I have to ask, what is the question to integrate in ESD?
Yes. Before that, biology topics at the micro level can integrate it into ESD before that. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure that the biology topics also at any level can be integrated in ESD for sure. If you want to make a closer connection to the sustainable developments, for example, you can go for, I don't know, maybe clean water, and also there are some creatures, some bacteria or anything which are very relevant for our climate itself, or if you're talking about fungi or something, we rely on on fungi, even in forests, that they keep up with the ecosystem services, for example. And I think this is the challenge for us to try to combine different biology topics as well with sustainable development as this. And for example, the easiest way I think is to combine it with the SDGs as we think of an overarching umbrella. So I think yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucas, for the answer. And Yazid, thank you for the question. Next question by Liska Handayani or Clarissa? Clarissa Zahra? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because it's very, very sunny in here.
Maybe you can post a question otherwise in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, Liska, you can write on the chat box. And the next question will be from Clarissa Zahra.
Okay, thank you moderator for the bahasa Inggris. I have a question.
What's your question?
I think the internet is
Okay.
in problem. Clarissa, we cannot hear your voice.
It has been explained previously that the use, I already sent it to the room chat. So the question is, it has been explained previously that the use of technology has negative impacts and challenge related to design and pedagogical foundations in integrating VR into classroom learning. So the question is, what are the pedagogical challenges that arise when the use of VR causes excessive screen time in classroom learning, and what are the solutions to these challenges? That's the question, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think it's a very important question to also talk about the challenges that comes with the use of VR. I think one aspect we also faced is the technological issues. So not every school has, for example, VR glasses. So this is step one, I guess. And then you have also if you go like into the design aspect, you need to be careful in making use of too much gamified VR environments, as a lot of gamification aspects or like a lot of interactive effects are more leading to a higher interest, because it is interesting to make use of VR, and but it's more then we have more a game. So the students play, but they don't learn. They are interested, but they don't learn. So we have to be careful on designing not too much gamification aspects, for example, and to always address the topic. And I think it is very important to don't use the VR too long in classroom. So to reduce also the problem of cyber sickness, so you get a little dizziness and so on. And I think it's important to also discuss the aspects learned afterwards in class in person. And always be aware that it can't substitute the real experience, I think. So thank you for the question.
Yeah. Next question from Fadla Vivi Amanila.
Okay. Thank you for your insightful presentation, Mr. Lucas. It was really informative, and I want ask you. I would like to ask, what are the main technical or pedagogical challenges faced when designing a virtual experience that effectively achieve a high level of engagement and presence? Thank you.
Like thank you for the question. That's a very good question. The technical challenges are probably on the design side, and as presence is a psychological concept. I think that the VR environment needs to be designed that it is somehow student-centered as well, so that the students are like addressed, and that the students can relate with the world and feel presence. So therefore, there's not a need for having like those real world experiences. So you can also have the simulation of the bathroom task, because everyone can relate with being in a bathroom and don't like use too much water or something like this. And this can also enrich the presence aspect. Technical challenges, I think that the most important aspect is to have a smooth running system, so that there are less distractions, for example. So thank you for your question.
Thank you, Lucas. I'm sorry for the noise before.
No worries.
We have another question from Agung Nugroho. Please, Agung.
Thank you, okay.
Can you
Good
speak
evening.
louder?
Okay, sorry, bentar. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, the question is, I would like to ask whether the ingredients of artificial intelligence with VR environments can change adaptive learning and personalizing in biology related, like ECD. Thank you, moderator.
So I tried to repeat the question, so you can give me a sign if I got it right. So the question was on how to design individual tasks in biology education VR environments. Is it that question? So I think, therefore, it is important to integrate or to work together with pedagogical experts as well. Because when it's on designing individual tasks, you always have the possibility, if you are used to designing virtual environments, you can always give research tasks. So for example, when we're like walking through a forest or something, then you can give your students the task to see which animals are also running through the forest, or which how the habitat is looking like. But I think that it should be important that the students follow their interest. So you can maybe give them the task to find out about something which is interesting for them, and then pose a question. And this question could then be made used in a further project, or in a, for example, then research more on the habitat of the frog, for example, or on the deep sea, or something like this. I think the individual tasks can come also from outside the virtual environment. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you, Mr.
we have one more question from Yuda Olivia. Yuda Olivia.
Uh, Thank you, for moderator for the opportunity. My name is Muhammad Yuda Alifiyah from Biology 24. I have questions. How can we make sure the VR experience are inclusive and easy to access for students from the different backgrounds and teach skill level, especially in a country like Indonesia, where the access technology, school facilities, and digital literacy can vary greatly between urban and rural areas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. That is also a very important question, and we also had have the problem in Austria as well, as we have like city schools which are very rich in technology, and we have rural schools which don't have any experience with making use of VR environments. So I can answer that from our side. We tried to design an VR environment as well as the same environment for a desktop version. So you don't need VR environment, VR glasses in general. You can also make use of any laptop or anything else. Another approach could be that the students make excursions to the university, for example, and can visit those sites. But I totally get the point that it is very hard also for some rural areas to make field trips in general. So maybe this is something, or this is a question which goes also for us to enable students to be technical literate as well, and also maybe it's a political aspect and a systematical aspect, because as you say, I think it's not it shouldn't be the solution that we send only virtual reality goggles to every school, because as you correctly said, I think the technical literacy isn't that high for some teachers. So I think we can work with those desktop possibilities. And then the challenge lies in reducing inequalities, probably.
Thank you, Lucas, for your answer, and thank you all participants for the questions. Yeah, it is still challenging for us in Indonesia to implement VR because limitation of the facility, and between urban and rural area it's so different with the facility from the government, but it's not as a teachers we have to unlimited our resource, especially with our environment. So the learning should be fun and get real contact with our environment, the real one, if not possible with the VR. Now we are in the closing session. Thank you very much, Lucas, for your insightful presentation and also the discussion. And I will turn to our MC to continue the session. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for the session, Mr. Lucas and Ibu Ismi. And everyone, we have now reached the conclusions of today's program. Before we close, we would like to present a certificate of appreciation to our guest lecturer. And yeah, Here it is. The operator is actually presenting the certificate. We extend our sincere gratitude for the valuable knowledge and perspectives shared during the session. And we would also like to express our appreciation to all participants, moderators, distinguished guest faculty members, and all the organizing committee for the dedication and contribution for ensuring the success of today's event. And may the insight gained today inspire further innovations and strengthen our commitment to advancing education through emerging technologies. Thank you once again for the attention and the participation to everyone. Wishing you a productive and pleasant afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you again.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Thank you very much,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lucas.
Thank you.
Miss Ismi, terima kasih.
Thank you.
Sama-sama Bu, terima kasih.
Udah, Gung.
Itu hampir telat kalian.
Izin apa ya? Izin apa ya?
Mau ada sesi dosen ini Bu?
Tidak ada. Udah di rumah masing-masing. Salam ya sama Mr. Lucas ya. Thank you.
Iya Bu, terima kasih
Ya,
banyak.
udah sore nih kita udah di kampus nih.
Oke,
Makasih ya Bu
oke.
Ismi.
Iya.
Ya. Makasih mahasiswa semuanya, Bu Dian.
Terima kasih panitia yang ada di
Ya, tim
Lampung.
sukses di balik layar. Oke. Izin live ya kita ya. Makasih.
Iya Bu.